In the history of Japan, there was once a samurai so feared that people believed he was no longer human. They said bullets couldn't stop him. They said he smiled while walking through fire. They said he killed without mercy. And eventually, people stopped calling him a man. They called him a demon. But here's the terrifying part. The real story is even darker than the legend. Because this samurai was not born a monster. He became one. And today, we uncover the tragic rise of the samurai who terrified an entire nation. The real story of the samurai who became a demon. Before we begin, this isn't a fantasy anime. This is based on the real-life story of Miyamoto Musashi, the most famous swordsman in Japanese history. A warrior whose skill became so terrifying that stories about him slowly transformed him into something supernatural. Over time, people began describing him not as a samurai, but as an unstoppable demon of war. And honestly, after hearing what he actually did, you might understand why. Musashi was born in Japan during the late 1500s, a brutal time of endless war. Villages burned constantly. Samurai fought for survival, and death was everywhere. But Musashi's childhood was different from other boys. He wasn't handsome. He wasn't noble. Historical descriptions say he looked rough, wild, and intimidating even as a child. Other children avoided him. Some feared him. And deep inside, that loneliness slowly turned into rage. By the age of 13, while most children were still learning discipline, Musashi challenged a fully trained samurai to a duel. And shockingly, he won. But not only did he win, he beat the man to death with a wooden stick. Imagine that. A 13-year-old boy standing over the body of a grown warrior. That moment changed everything. Because after tasting victory through violence, Musashi never turned back. Japan during this era was chaos. Perfect for a warrior hungry to prove himself. Musashi wandered the country alone, challenging swordsmen, schools, and samurai masters. And one by one, they fell. But Musashi didn't fight honorably the way samurai stories usually portray. No, he fought to survive, to win, by any means necessary. Sometimes he arrived late to duels intentionally, to anger his opponent. Sometimes he used wooden swords against real blades. And somehow, he still won again and again. People began whispering terrifying rumors. Is he even human? Why does he never lose? Why does he fight like a beast? Because Musashi wasn't fighting for glory anymore. He was fighting like a man who believed weakness meant death. Then came the duel that changed his legend forever. The duel against the powerful Sasaki Kajiro. Kajiro was elegant, disciplined, a master swordsman respected across Japan. Musashi. He looked like chaos itself. Dirty clothes, wild hair, cold eyes. The battle took place on a lonely island, and according to legend, Musashi arrived extremely late again. Kajiro became furious. Exactly what Musashi wanted. But here's the insane part. Musashi carved a wooden sword from an oar. He entered the duel carrying a weapon made from a boat paddle against one of the greatest swordsmen alive. The fight lasted only moments. One strike. That was all. Musashi crushed Kajiro's skull and walked away alive. That duel became legendary across Japan. And after that, the rumors became darker. People no longer saw him as merely talented. They saw him as something terrifying, something inhuman, a warrior blessed or cursed by darkness itself. But here's what most anime and movies leave out. Musashi's greatest battle wasn't against other samurai. It was against himself. Think about it. Imagine spending your entire life surrounded by violence. Everywhere you go, someone wants to kill you. Every duel could be your last. Over time, a human being changes. And Musashi changed deeply. Historical writings describe him as isolated, cold, obsessed with combat. He avoided luxury, avoided comfort, avoided emotional attachment. It's almost as if he slowly sacrificed pieces of his humanity to become unbeatable. That's why people called him a demon. Not because he had horns, not because he had magic powers, but because he had transformed himself into something terrifyingly efficient at violence. A man who abandoned fear. And sometimes, that's far scarier than any monster. But then, something unexpected happened. Musashi grew older, and for the first time in his life, he began to reflect. After surviving countless duels and wars, he realized something painful. Winning every battle doesn't heal loneliness. Violence doesn't create peace. And becoming feared is not the same as becoming fulfilled. So the man once known for death began changing his life completely. He studied art, painting, philosophy, writing, meditation. The same hands that once held blood-covered swords started creating beauty. And eventually, Musashi wrote one of Japan's most famous philosophical texts, the Book of Five Rings. A book not just about combat, but about discipline, strategy, and mastering oneself. That's the part many people miss. Musashi's story is not simply about becoming a demon. It's about realizing the cost of becoming one. The reason Musashi's story still survives hundreds of years later is because it reflects something deeply human. Every person fights battles. Anger, fear, pain, loneliness, and sometimes the world teaches us to become emotionally cold just to survive. But Musashi's later life teaches the opposite lesson. Strength alone is incomplete. True mastery is learning when to put the sword down. The demon samurai eventually understood something many warriors never do. A man who can destroy others is powerful, but a man who conquers himself is unstoppable. So, was Miyamoto Musashi truly a demon? No. He was something far more tragic. A human being shaped by violence, who spent half his life learning how to survive, and the other half learning how to be human again. And maybe that's why his story still feels so powerful today. Because deep down, we all fear becoming monsters in our pursuit of strength. But Musashi's life reminds us that no matter how dark your path becomes, you can still choose who you become in the end. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.